Namaste, everyone. Before I start the class, I want to apologize to everyone for not able to join you over the weekend. I have some family emergency, so I'm leaving for India in about 4 hours. And once again, sincerely sorry for not able to join. Let's start today's class with our peace prayer. So, love and respect remain among us. So, starting with the peace prayer. ॐ सहना भवतु सहनो भुक्तु सह वीर्यं कर्वावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Right? So let's start with the slides. Today we have a lot to cover. We will begin the class with talking about what we covered last month. And then we are going to go into the chapter 2 and we are going to cover from Sutras 28 to 39. So there are many sutras to cover. If you guys have any questions, feel free to email me or reach out to me through Mighty Network. All right. So last month, we discussed the 8 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga. Right? And we covered Sutra 1, 2, and 46. So Sutra 1 said, Atha Yoga Anusasanam. So Sutra 1 emphasized on yogis to live in the now, the present, instead of fretting over the past or worrying about the future. In Sutra 2, talks about Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. This sutra asked yogis to empty their minds of thoughts and live in the silence of nothingness. This silence will allow us to live in the present. And the third sutra that we covered in our very first class was Sutra 46, Sthira Sukham Asanam. This sutra explains yogis that a still body would lead to still mind. That's when I gave you guys an example of a marble in a container. When we shake the container and then put it outside, the container is stopped moving, but the marble inside is still going around. So the container is the body and the marble is our mind. That's why if you're practicing practicing meditation, we first need to start practicing by sitting still. And finally, last month, we talked about 8 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga. So that's what we covered last month. Let's go to. In today's class, we will connect the concept of Ashtanga Yoga in chapter 1 to the Kriya Yoga in chapter 2. What is Kriya Yoga? Kriya means action. So the action needed to achieve the 8 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga are described in chapter 2. There are several sutras that are dedicated by Maharishi Patanjali to the description of the 8 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga. But in this class, due to time constraints, we will focus on Sutra 28 to 39 only. So let's get to the material. Starting from 28th Sutra, from Pad to Pad means chapter. That is Yoga Anga Anushtanad Asuddhikshye Jnanadipti Avivek Khyate. Looking at the explanation, Rishi Patanjali uses the word Avivek Khyate. Vivek means right, and Khyate means knowledge. So Vivek Khyate means to the right knowledge, having a right knowledge. The A in Avivek Khyate means fully developed. Rishi Patanjali is pointing towards fully developing the right knowledge, not partially developing, but fully developing. What is the right knowledge? Can there be something like wrong knowledge? Isn't knowledge just knowledge? Yes, but for yogis, the right knowledge is described in the 8 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga. What does Patanjali means by developing? There is a big difference between knowing and developing. We know that we can trust someone, but we develop that trust only through practice and our experiences. Unless and until we haven't practiced the benefits of following the 8 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga, we will not develop our trust for the 8 limbs to be the right knowledge for the yogis. Finally, Rishi Patanjali uses the word fully developing. This one is simple. Doubts cannot be good in any relationships or any task unless and until we don't fully practice the 8 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga. We will never fully experience the benefit of it. So, Avivek Khyate means to fully develop the right knowledge. Now, how do we do that? Rishi Patanjali uses the word Yoga Anga Anushtana. Yoga is the path of science we are trying to follow. Anga describes the 8 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga, and Anushtana is to be disciplined and dedicated. If we want to grow as a yogis with the guidance from Ashtanga Yoga that we cannot be, then it cannot be a part-time practice. We cannot say, I want to practice the discipline today as I'm too tired, or I will practice some other time or some other day. I want to do something else. Such excuse will not lead a result a yogi would like to see. Even if some difficulties are there, we need to overcome it. Discipline and dedications are vital. All the limbs of Ashtanga Yoga needs to be practiced with Anushthanad. If we do this, then Rishi Patanjali gives the result. First, he says, is Ashaddhikshay. That means there will be destructions or removal of impurities. All impurities will be slowly diminished, not just physical, but mental and emotional as well. For example, sugar in blood is essential, but more sugar in blood results in diabetes. Sugar is not impure, but excess quantity of it is impure. Similarly, the thoughts in our minds are important, but excess thought could result in impulsiveness, or sad thoughts could result in depression. Thoughts are not impure, but excess quantity, misguided, or misdirected thoughts could be impure or harmful to us and our loved ones. All impurities in body, in mind, in intellect, whichever they may be, will slowly be diminished with anusthana, meaning with disciplined practice of 8 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga. Next, Rishi Patanjali says, Gyan Dipti Avivek Khyate. Dipti is awakening, and Gyan is knowledge. We will awaken knowledge by following Ashtang Yoga. And what type of knowledge? Avivekyate, meaning fully developed, right knowledge from our own experience. So, to conclude the first sutra, that is 28, by following the 8 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga with dedication and discipline, we will rid ourselves of impurities and awaken a fully developed right knowledge. Moving on to the next sutra, and that is Sutra 29. Yama, Niyama, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyana, Samodhyay. Actually, I'm so sorry. Let me just silence my phone real quick. Once again, sincerely sorry about that. So, Sutra 29, Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi, Ashtavangani. And that's 29, and that's the definition of 29. Rishi Patanjali reintroduces us to the 8 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga, which are Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyan, and Samadhi. Rishi Patanjali uses the word Ashtavangani, which is quite interesting and insightful. We have referred to Ashtanga Yoga as having 8 limbs. However, limb is not the correct way to address the teaching of Ashtanga Yoga. The word Angani means organs. Rishi Patanjali could have easily called his 8 steps or sopanam instead of saying Angani, meaning 8 steps of Ashtanga Yoga. But he purposefully uses the word Angani. Why? When we say organs, our first thought goes to our body organs. And that's exactly what Rishi Patanjali wanted us to relate to. So now let's consider the organs of our body, like heart, lungs, liver, stomach, etc. These organs come together to form the body. The organs have independent functions. Heart pumps the blood, lungs control inhalation, exhalation. So there is independent functions, yet they are interdependent. They all work in systematic way and in cooperation with each other. Now let's say we go for a run. Our leg muscles will need more blood. So the heart provides more blood. Blood should contain more oxygen. So respiratory system provides more oxygen. And everything is controlled by the brain. Thereby, all organs are dependent on each other. They are all connected with each other. Even though they are different and they have unique functions, there is a cooperation among them. This is why the word Angani is very important. All these 8 components are like organs, like angas. They have separate explanation, actions, but they are all connected to each other and are dependent on each other. So, to conclude Sutra 29, we will continue calling the teaching of Ashtanga Yoga as the 8 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga. However, Rishi Patanjali reminds us in Sutra 29 that just like the organs of our body have independent functions, yet dependent on each other, similarly, The 8 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga have independent practices, yet dependent on the working of each other. Moving on to next sutra, and that is sutra number 30 from chapter 2, and that is Ahimsa, Satya, Asatya, Brahmacharya, Aparigraha, Yama. And looking at the definition. Oh, not 31. Okay. All right. So, looking at the definition of Sutra 30, it goes into the detail of the 5 yamas that we discussed in previous class. The 5 yamas are Ahimsa, Satya, Asatya, Brahmacharya, and Parigraha. The 5 yamas could be looked as the rules yogis should follow for social discipline. Ahimsa, non-violence. Satya, meaning always speaking the truth. Asatya, do not steal. Brahmacharya, celibacy. And finally, Parigraha, non-grasping. Of these 5 yamas, we will focus on Ahimsa, that is non-violence. Non-violence, if understood in its true sense, is impossible for any human to follow, as our existence is based on the destructions of others. Non-violence strictly means violence against no one. We usually relate violence with the physical, but what about violence against the mental or emotional state of another being? Just like physical abuse is violence, mental, emotional, and sexual abuse is violence as well. Slapping somebody is just as violent as bullying somebody. From our day-to-day activities to our day-to-day lives, we are selectively violent beings. And practicing non-violence all the time is not possible for us. From breathing, which destroys millions of bacteria, to food, which kills millions of plants and animals, we cannot possibly practice complete non-violence. Rishi Patanjali understands this, and thereby he addresses this very point in Sutra 33 and 34, which we will cover today in today's class. So, to conclude Sutra 30, the 5 yamas of the Ashtanga Yoga are Ahimsa, Satya, Asatya, Brahmacharya, and Parigraha. As we saw, with the first of the 5 yamas, it may not be possible for us to be 100% non-violent, but we can be selectively violent or partially non-violent to the best of our ability. It is important to call out, as Rishi Patanjali would do in Sutra 33 and 34, that each one of the 5 yamas should be practiced to the best of our abilities. So let's move on to next sutra, and that is sutra number 31, which goes as Jati Desh Kal Samay Anvachinna Sarvabhavu Mahavratam. And this is the definition of it. In this sutra, Rishi Patanjali addresses one of the misconceptions that has plagued yoga till this date. In India and several places around the world, yoga is considered as an extension of the Hindu religion. which is practiced primarily by Indians. There are a couple of things grossly incorrect in this statement. First, Hinduism is not a religion. Hinduism is a way of life. Second, no Hindu or anyone, as a matter of fact, can claim their right on yoga. Can a country or a religion claim their right on science like chemistry or biology? No. Similarly, yoga is a science, and no one can claim right to the science. And Hindus have never made any such claims either. Rishi Patanjali calls this fact out in Sutra 31. He says, Jati, Desh, Kal, Samay. Jati meaning religion, caste, social status. Desh meaning country, location, place. Kal meaning time, Samay. And Samay meaning custom, situation. Patanjali says, it does not matter which religion you belong to, or which country, place you come from, or which time you are born in, or which situation or circumstances you are in. Every person, Sarvabhauma, who wants to be a yogi should follow the vows of Mahavratam, of Ashtang Yoga. It is as if Rishi Patanjali knew that millennia after him, we would be in this bad habit of politicizing everything. And in doing so, yoga, which is a science, will get politicized as a religion or nationalist. To conclude Sutra 31, to be a yogi and walk on the path of Ashtanga Yoga, all we need to do is be a good human being. Regardless of many ways, the society around us likes to divide us. At the end of the day, all we need is nose to breathe, eyes to see, mouth to eat, ears to hear, and hearts to beat. Moving on to next sutra, and that is sutra number 32, which goes as Sauch Santosh Tapa Swadhyay Ishwa Pranidhan Niyamaha. These words may sound similar to you guys as we did cover in previous class. So Sutra 32 describes the 5 niyamas, namely Sauch, Santosh, Tapa, Swadhyay, Ishwa Pranidhan. Sauch meaning purity, Santosh contentment, Tapa austerity, Swadhyay study of self, Ishwa Pranidhan complete surrender to Supreme Being. Just like the yamas are rules for social discipline, niyamas are rules for self-discipline. We won't get into niyamas today as they are covered previously. And let's move on to the sutra number 33. That is Vitarka Bandhane Pratipaksha Bhavanam. And here's the definition of Sutra 33. Rishi Patanjali addresses the elephant in the room. He recognized that the thought of always following the 5 yamas and niyamas may be disheartening, discouraging, or at least doubtful to follow at all times. The problem for us is that we understand the yamas and niyamas, yet we easily slip into the world of rationality. The rules don't change, but the interpretation of rules change from person to person. For example, we all would agree that asatya, that means don't steal, is a good rule to follow. But most of us would agree that the concept of Robin Hood is okay. We all would agree that Satya, that is telling the truth, is a good rule to follow. But many a times we rationalize our use of lies for our own betterment or to save our loved ones. And let's not even get into the brahmacharya celibacy. Rishi Patanjali understands the struggles and knows that doubt will arise. That's why he says vitarka bandhane. But he asks us to think of the opposite, pratipaksha bhavanam. That is, what would happen if we don't follow the yamas and niyamas? Maybe we will experience short term gain or pleasure, but in the long term, we will have to pay the consequences of not following these yamas and niyamas. In Sutra 34, Rishi Patanjali goes into details on one such yamas. For now, to conclude Sutra 33, doubts may arise in our minds as to the following of yamas and niyamas. But Rishi Patanjali asks us to consider the opposite as well. What would happen to us if we don't follow these yamas and niyamas? Sutra 34. It's little long. So, vitarka ahinsadhyah krutatarita numodita lobh krodh mohpurvaka mrudu madhyadi matra dukha jnanat phala iti pratipaksh bhavanam. So let's look at the definition of it. Rishi Patanjali continues on Sutra 34 by taking example of non-violence, ahimsa. Rishi Patanjali says, when doubt arises, means vitarka, and we decide not to follow ahimsa, in which case we will be following violence, himsa. He goes into the various categories that are considered as being violent. He says it matters not if you are the one who is violent, meaning if you are the one who's karta, or you have someone else conduct violent act for you, karita, or if you stand by as violence is being done by someone else, numodita, you have taken a part in a violent act. Then he says, it matters not if the violence is done out of greed, lobh, anger, krodh, attachment or illusion, moh, or infatuation, purvaka. An act of violence cannot be rationalized. Finally, he says that it matters not the intensity of the violence. If the violent act is mild, which is mrudu, moderate, madhya, or high, violent act is considered to be done. Rishi Patanjali then gives the result of a violent act. He says that a violent act will result in pain, misery, and ignorance for a long period of time. Dukkha jnana phala. This is why Rishi Patanjali asks us to think before we decide to rationalize, going against the rules called out in the yamas and niyamas. So, think. To conclude Sutra 34, anytime we have doubt, which is pratipaksh bhavanam, if we should follow yama or niyama, think of what would happen if we don't follow it. None of us would like to live in pain, misery, and ignorance. Mahatma Gandhi has said, an eye for an eye will make the whole world blind. Yet, anger, frustration, annoyance, fear, apprehension, jealousy, etc. are emotions that many a times rules our decision making. As long as we are not able to follow the yamas and niyamas, we will continue struggling in our soul's journey through this human body. Sutra 35 to 39. As humans, we are all incentive driven. So, Rishi Patanjali lays out the benefits we would experience if we were to follow these yamas religiously. These benefits are laid out on this slide. Due to the limitations of time, we will go and only focus on Sutra 39 right now. So, oh, why does it keep jumping? Right. Sutra 39 says, Aparigraha sthairye janam kathana sambodha. That is Sutra 39. Gives the benefit of religiously following aparigraha. It may be difficult to understand how following aparigraha, which is not being attached to any material existence, would lead to us knowing our past births. So, detachment in a way, it's actually good that today we don't remember our past because of detachment, right? On the face of it, this does not make sense. But if we think about it, in our current life, we are troubled by missed opportunities, people whom we have wronged, or people who have wronged us, unpaid loans or favors, etc. Now, imagine if we learn about our past lives in our current state of mind, then our troubles would be doubled. That is, we will now be troubled by missed opportunities in our previous lives. People who wronged us then, and we will be troubled for many other stuff. So, it makes sense that until and unless we have mastered aparigraha, the past lives are hidden from us. That unless and until we learn to detach to situation, detach to people. So, the last slide for today's class. To conclude the lesson, discipline, dedication, and focus is required for yogis to follow the path of Ashtanga Yoga. We will have self-doubt, but if we overcome these doubts, many amazing benefits awaits us. If we fall prey to self-doubt, we will have to face consequences of our ill actions. Rationalizing mind allows us to compromise with the yamas and niyamas. However, we do so at our own peril. And finally, knowing the 8 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga is easy, but following them, it's very tough. And it is only the person who diligently follows the 8 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga becomes yogi. And it is upon this becoming that miraculous powers are bestowed, and who in true sense find peace and happiness on earth. Thereby, it is safe to say that we are all yogis in training. Namaste. Again, if you guys have any question, feel free to reach out to me through email or Mighty Network messaging. Thank you.